Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Lily Reads. And as you can tell by the title, we have my February wrap up. So February is Black History Month, and I like to spend the entire month reading books by Black authors. And yeah, I think it's really important to support Black authors. And so that is what I did in February. Most of these books I talked about in videos, but a few of these books I did not. Now, I do have to say I am a liar. I said that I read nothing but Black authors in February, but we ran into a problem because you guys know I do my 25 books I want to read in 2025. And in order to be able to read all 25 books, I like to break it up by the month. So I read 2 books every month, and then some month I'm just going to read 3 books to just knock out that extra dangling one. Well, I had to read 2 books that were from that, and I just don't have good foresight because instead of choosing 2 books from Black authors, I chose any 2 books. None of the books that are in my 25 books I want to read in 2025 are from Black authors because I have no issue reading Black authors. Like, I chose the books I've been having a hard time getting to, and I just don't have a hard time getting to Black authors because I read Black authors all the time, like in February. So the 2 books I read are not from Black authors, so we are going to start with those. So the first book we have is The Secret She Keeps by Michael Robotham. Oh, I didn't even know this was by this author. Anyways, in this book, we are following 2 women that are pregnant. They become friends, and one is keeping a secret. And that is basically what this book is about. Nothing more than that. This book is a popcorn thriller. You are just following these 2 women in their lives. You know one is keeping a secret, and I actually think rather quickly you know what the secret one of them is keeping is, but that doesn't make this book any less interesting. I had a really fun time with this book. This book isn't a 4-star read, but I think if you have a weekend and you just need something to read, this is a really good book. I like thrillers like this, where it's just like, what's going to happen next? This book didn't get too wacky. It didn't get too insane. I think it stayed exactly where it wanted to be. It told a perfectly good story. And like I said, a nice little popcorn thriller, domestic type of thriller. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. I had a really good time with this book. A shockingly good time with this book. When I first started off the book, I was like, am I going to read it? Because I do allow myself to DNF my 2025 books in 2025, and I still count it as a check. So I'm like, do I want to read this? I don't know. It was the first book I read in the month, and I said, wait a minute, this is getting kind of good. Like, I was interested in the characters. It just worked. The back and forth POVs between the 2 characters, I just think it all worked. The next book is by Hiroko Ayamada, and it is The Factory. In this book, we are following a cast of characters as they all work at this factory over a few years. And that's pretty much the synopsis. It's a very short book. And yeah, you learn about this factory and you learn about what these people's jobs are at this factory. And quickly, the people at the factory start to question why they are going to this factory. What is the point of this factory? And what is their job? I appreciated this book, and I think I like this book more than a lot of other people who read this book would like this book. This book has a very simple and easy message. It's not trying to do anything all that spectacular, but the way that it went about giving this message, I actually thought was really well done and really thoughtful. So that's what I thought this book. I thought this book was really thoughtful, and it was interesting. It got to a point where I wanted to give this book 4 stars. When I finished it, I'm like, I enjoyed that more than I thought I was going to enjoy that. At first, it was a little confusing, and I do think this book could be less confusing. I don't know if maybe it's the translation thing, but like oftentimes I feel like this book, the sentence structures and what this book is doing is way more confusing than it needs to be. Maybe convoluted, maybe intricate than it needs to be. But once I got into it and the groove of it, I'm like, I like this book. I'm going to keep it at a 3.5, but I do think if you run into this book, it's worth the read. It is worth the read. So those are the only 2 books by Black authors I did not read. We got 1 5-star this month, and that was by Shauna Robinson, the Banned Bookshop of Maggie Banks. So in this book, we are following Maggie Banks, and Maggie Banks does not have a job, so she has decided that she is going to take over her friend's bookshop while her friend is on maternity leave. Well, she quickly finds out that this bookshop is half owned by this corrupt guy who only lets them sell books that are classics and from a certain time period. So she starts to sell books underground to get more people to come to this bookstore so that her friend can have more money to help care for her family, and that is the Banned Bookshop of Maggie Banks. It has been a long time that I've read a woman's fiction book and just felt like it was just really, really well done. I like women's fiction. I like what people would call chick lit. I think when it's done well, it can be a really, really fun time, but it's just been a long time since I've read one that was really, really done well. That was this book. Everything felt like it was meticulously put together. Like, it never felt like any of the drama was forced. The relationship between our two love interests, nothing felt forced. Everything felt like it was perfectly flowing together, and I just really enjoyed this book. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Excellent, excellent book. The next book we have is Some Other Now. In this book, we are following this biracial girl, and she is best friends with 2 boys who live in her town. They have been best friends for a long time. She is not close with her family. She feels like her parents kind of neglect her. They live their life and they don't really worry about her. So she's kind of taken a home in this family with these 2 boys. Well, one day the mother gets sick and they basically just stop talking to this girl. They stop talking to this girl, stop being friends with this girl. And now we come back and they're trying to pick up the pieces. They're trying to figure out like what happened, why they stopped being friends with her. And you know, she might have a crush on one of them. And just, you're getting into the lives of these young adults and like dealing with grief, dealing with the things that are going on with her family, her relationship with these boys, and what's going to happen to the mother. This book was a weird one, a really, really weird one, because it kept feeling like the author was setting us up for something, and then we switched to something else. And then this book is told with us being left at a distance, so we don't get all the information. The timelines are jumping from before and after. So we're often left like aloof, and I actually think that kind of holds the book back, because you're sitting here wondering like, what the hell happened? When are you going to tell us what's going to happen here? It's not my favorite way to experience a book. I constantly talk about how like, I don't like it when books do that. I don't like it when books keep information from you to keep you intrigued. It actually turns me away, and I'm just like, I don't even care that anymore. But I think overall this book is a good book about finding yourself and identity. Somewhere in here is a love story, maybe, if you're that type of person. I thought this book was fine. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I had a little bit of issue with the writing, but I will say it kept me reading. There's a lot of mess and a lot of drama in this book. I just think the structure doesn't fully work in this book, and there's a lot going on. But I do know a lot of people like this book. Now, it could be a sign of the times, right? This book came out in like 2020, 2021. So we are like 4 years removed from like this type of book. And I think books like this aren't really written anymore that often, this type. So maybe it was like love 4 years ago, and maybe now you wouldn't really like it. But I thought it was perfectly fine. And if you're someone who really reads young adult and you like, you know, this type of stuff, you might like this more than I like this book. But still, 3 out of 5 stars. The next book we have is Finding Jupiter. In this book, we are following a girl named Jupiter, and we're following a boy named Orion. And basically, this is the start of their relationship. The boy, he is headed off to college really soon. And Jupiter, I think she's a junior in high school. And she's dealing with the fact that her dad died. Her dad died, and she's kind of just feeling like she doesn't really know how to love people. She doesn't know how to let people in. You know, you have your like damaged girl. Then you have Orion. He is dealing with the fact that his sister is dead, and he's dealing with the fact that he wants to be cool, he wants to be suave, he wants to find love, he wants to find his place in this town, but he hasn't found it yet. And like I said, he's headed off to college. He likes to swim and all that, and it's basically about these 2 damaged individuals coming together to find love. I really, really like this book. I like the dynamic of, so our girl in this book, Jupiter, she's more of the cool one. She was the cool one. She was the suave one. She was the one who who kind of started the relationship, who put herself out there. And then you had this guy, he's kind of the nerd. He kind of doesn't have his footing. He's a little bit clumsy. I like that. And I like them both dealing with their problems, but not too much. Like, you don't want to watch a bunch of high school kids like getting too into their problems. Like, they young, they still supposed to have fun. And I think this book finds the perfect balance of like kids having fun, kids also having issues, and it coming together. This was a really good book. I think the writing in this book is really, really good. So at first when I was reading this book, it took me a little time to find my footing. I was just like, I don't know about this one. Well, once you do, this actually is a really, really cute love story. And so I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Next book that I read is Small Worlds by Caleb Nelson. This is the author of the book Open Water. I really enjoyed Open Water. I have a whole vlog on my channel reading Open Water. So of course I was going to pick up his next book, which is Small Worlds. In Small Worlds, we are following a main character. He is a first generation Londoner. He lives in London. His family is from Ghana, and basically you're dealing with the fact that he has his own dreams and aspirations, but his family wants him to go to university. And he also has this girl that he has a crush on. They've been friends for a long time. Her name is like Adeline or something. And yeah, you're following them over 3 years. I think it was 3 years, maybe 3 summers. And you see, I'm trying to find what was going on in this book. There was a lot going on. And you're just dealing with the stuff, what British people go through, Black British people go through over there in London. And you know, your family's expectations and all of that stuff. The reason why I'm very like lackadaisical when describing this book, I didn't like this book, which is so shocking to me. I thought this is for sure going to be like 4 stars, give it to it, done. I did not like this book. Have you ever read a book and felt like you were reading a book for book's sake? Like, nothing about this feels necessarily inspired. Nothing about this feels all that unique. Like, you're reading a book and you're like, it's well written enough. The characters are good enough. The stories are good enough, but there's nothing inspiring about it. It feels like the author kind of phoned it in, like was hitting all the beats they're supposed to hit. That's what this book felt like to me. It felt like this book hits all the beats. So like, you're dealing with Black Londoners, so you're getting the London stuff. You're dealing with Black people, so you're going to get the police brutality stuff. You're dealing with people who come from African parents, so you're going to get living up to my family's expectation. There's a love story in there, so you're going to get the will they, won't they. And then this Caleb guy who wrote this book, Caleb Nelson, he's a good writer, so you're going to get all the literary prose that you're expecting, but there's nothing more to it. That's what this book was to me. Like, this book just felt really phoned in. It felt self-indulgent at times, and I feel like this book has had no spark. Like, things were happening to the characters. Like, there's a character in this book who like dies. Like, there's a moment in the book where someone dies, and it's just like expected, like, because that's what this book is supposed to do. Like, this book did everything that it was supposed to do, but I felt like this book really lacked heart. It really lacked heart, and it really lacked anything that made this book unique. It almost felt, it's actually something I have an issue with a lot of British fiction. This is going to be an unpopular opinion, maybe even a little messy. I don't really like British literary fiction. I really, really don't. It's the reason why sometimes I have an issue with Zadie Smith books sometimes. It's the reason why I had an issue with the book Ma May. It's the reason why I had an issue with the book Fire Rush. Like, I had to sit with myself and be like, why don't I like a lot of these books? Like, I didn't like Zadie Smith in W. I didn't like Ma May. I didn't like Fire Rush. And I'm just like, oh, I have an issue with British literary fiction. There's just something about the way that it's written that just doesn't really like land with me. Now, Open Water did land with me by this author, but this one fell more in line with that, and I just find them to be, they're lacking something that doesn't jive with me. So I think I'm going to be a little bit more picky about the British literary fiction that I pick up, because it's not just, by the way, it's not just Black British literary fiction. It's like all British literary fiction. I always get a little bit, something about it is just a little, I can't fully sink my teeth into it sometimes. That there are exceptions. I love some of Zadie Smith's work. I love Open Water by this author. So there 100% are exceptions, but sometimes they all kind of can fall into like this going in one ear and out the other. Like, I'm reading it, but like, do I care? And that's how I felt about this book. I didn't care about anything going on in it. So I gave that book 2 out of 5 stars. The next 2 out of 5 star book is In It to Win It. So in this book, we are following former lovers, and they both want to buy a building. So they both have jobs that make them need a building, like a big old building. And so the guy who owns the building decides he is going to do a competition that is going to decide who gets to buy this building. And of course, because our 2 main characters are former lovers and they're both buying this building, they start to spend time together, and they start to figure out why they didn't end up together and how they can make their relationship work this time. And that is In It to Win It. This author also had another book I really enjoyed. It was business, not as usual, business as usual, something like that. I enjoyed this book, gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And this one didn't work because I felt like there was something there and we never got it. So these characters are like former lovers, and there's a reason why they couldn't get together, right? And so you're expecting to like work through their past trauma and what happened to them and like, you know, figure out that they're meant for each other. That's not what happened. They quickly hook up with each other, and it's just like, that's it. Like, there's no moment of like reflection of what we should do if this is going to work. You're just following these people just doing shit. And even the like competition aspect of this book is not all that well done. Something about this book just felt like underbaked, a little underbaked for me. So I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars, but I wanted to like it way more because I wanted Sharon C. Cooper to be an author that I really enjoy, but just not. The next book we have is by Christina Forrest, and that is Now That I've Found You. So in this book, we are following a girl who is the granddaughter of a really big movie star. But this movie star, her grandma has like fell off the face of the earth, and nobody knows like where she is except our main character does. Well, our main character ends up getting canceled on the internet because she's supposed to be in a movie, but she ends up like making fun of the director. She gets canceled. So she decides she wants to rehab her career. And in order to rehab her career, she is going to do a movie that her grandmother did. But in order to do the movie, she has to get permission from her grandmother. So she goes to her grandmother's house, and she sees that her grandma has this weird boy living at her house. And so she's like, that's weird. But one day the grandmother goes missing. She gets in a fight with her grandmother, and her grandmother goes missing. So the weird boy and her go to find the grandmother, and this is their love story. I like this book. Christina Forrest does make books that I enjoy. It has been a while since I have enjoyed a Christina Forrest book, but I enjoyed this book. This was just a perfectly good story. Like, I wanted to know where grandma went. I wanted to know if this girl could rehab her career. It wasn't anything special. There's nothing for me to come and just be like, oh, this part really just blew me away. It feels good sometimes because I read so many books in a month. It feels good to sit down with a book and just be in the story. There's nothing really to call home about and be like, let me tell you what's going on. It's just a good story, start to finish. And that's what this book was. I enjoyed this book. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Maybe 3.75. Yeah, I'm going to give that 3.75 out of 5 stars. We got another book I did not love, and that is the Davenports. So in this book, we are back in the early 1900s, maybe 1930s, I don't know. You are following this family who owns like carriages, like horse carriages, and they have made a lot of money. Well, it is time for the girls in this family to get married. So you have our main girl, her name is Olivia. Olivia is supposed to go and, you know, keep the family name strong, go find a husband, but she ends up, you know, falling into some civil rights stuff. And so that's her. Then you have Helen. Helen is the youngest daughter. She does not want to do any of that find a husband bullshit. She wants to work on cars. Cars are the new thing, and she wants to work on cars. Then you have a maid who works for them. Amy Rose. Yep, Amy Rose. She is the maid. She wants to marry the Davenport brother because they have a little fling going on. And then you have the last person, Ruby. Ruby is not part of the family. Ruby has her own family and her own drama, but she also needs to marry the Davenport brother. There's a Davenport brother who's going to take over the family business. And this is you following all of them throughout everything they got going on. Doesn't that sound so much fun? It sounds so much fun to follow this affluent black family in this like historical time, whatever. I think this book is just maybe a little too young for me. This book is a young adult book, obviously, but I've read many young adult books this month. This book felt a little like almost middle grade-ish at times. These characters aren't really doing anything here. It's going from like chapter to chapter. There's no like, I was looking for like American royals with this book, like real like getting into it. I just think that there was potential here, but like none of it really was seen. I was bored. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was just bored reading this one, but I'm gonna blame it on me being too damn old. I am maybe just too damn old for this book. I will not be continuing in the series. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars, and I do think if you are someone who wants like maybe a younger type of book, or maybe you're one of those people who's just like, I want fun black book, this could be for you. It's just not for me, so I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. The next book we have is You Truly Assumed. In this book, we are following 3 black Muslim girls as they deal with the fact that a terrorist attack just happened and the Muslim community is being blamed for this terrorist attack, which is making other people target Muslim communities and do all types of like, you know, nasty things to Muslims because they believe Muslims are responsible for this terrorist attack. So our main character, she starts a blog where she talks about all the stuff that black Muslims go through. These 2 girls see the blog and they want to become a part of it. And it is about all of these girls dealing with their own personal lives, as well as starting this blog and Islamophobia and all of this time. Great book to read during Ramadan, by the way. But this book was really nice. I do think it takes a long time to get its footing. Like, you get the premise pretty quickly with this book, what this book wants to be, what it's going to try to do. But it takes a long time for this book to start to get legs and start going. So I do think we have an issue with some pacing. There's some pacing issues. And it does get a little boring sometimes. There's times I was reading and I'm a little bored. So, like, I didn't love this book. I love what this book stood for, but I didn't love this book. I do think once this book does start to walk, it really starts walking and it finds its groove. So I did give this book 3 out of 5 stars. It's an enjoyable book. I think you should pick it up. And the cover is gorgeous, but it wasn't the best book in the world. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars though. I think you should pick it up if you find that interesting, and it's Ramadan. Next book we have is We Weren't Looking to Be Fat. In this book, we are following 2 girls who get sent to a rehab facility because one tries to kill themselves and the other one just has been doing drugs and was caught on camera doing drugs. So they go to this rehab facility and they, you know, get to know each other, and you're finding out what's going on in their life that will make them do this. So you get things from their past that has been going on, and then you have what's going on at this rehab facility. This is one of those books that I think 100% should be getting written, and I think this book is perfect for like young adults. This book should be in a high school kids should be reading this to know like you're not alone. This book is like a coming of age book about growing up in this world as black girls and dealing with all the pressure that is put on you, dealing with all the like, you know, just mental health type of stuff that is going on. I think this book is really, really well written. I gave this book 3.5 stars, but the reason why I gave it 3.5 stars is simply I'm not the audience of this book. And the thing is, I don't want young adult books to age up. Like, I am perfectly okay with this book being for a younger person. Like, that is the point of this book. That's why I say this book is perfect for the exact audience that it's trying to reach. I think you get a 16-year-old reading this book and they're like, whoa, this changed my life. And that's how it should be, right? Most of the time when I read young adult books, I'm like, this is great, right? But every now and then there's a young adult book where I'm just like, no, this book is meant for someone who is literally 15, and that is perfect, right? It doesn't have to be for me. I still really enjoyed this book, but I think give this book to a 13-year-old and it blows their mind. This book is really, really important. It's well done. It's well written. I enjoyed this book. The next book we have is I Feed Her to the Beast, and the Beast is Me. In this book, we got kids making deals with the devil, baby. Kids making deals with the devil. This girl is a ballerina, and she wants to be the best ballerina, but someone at the ballet, she's in the French ballet, they tell her, like, we don't need your look. We looking for white girls, baby, and you don't have the look. Go over to America and see if they want you, child. See if Misty Copeland got a spot. So anyway, she's just like, well, I'm better than everybody. I'm top of my class. What's going on? So then there's this other ballerina who's like, come with me. Come with me. I'm about to tell you how I got on. And she basically introduces her to the devil, and she makes a deal with the devil to be the best ballerina there is, and quickly she becomes that. But quickly it seems like the beast is starting to become her. Like, she's starting to become the beast. She's starting to do weird things. Her voice is doing weird things. And that is this book. I really enjoyed this book. Like, really enjoyed this book. I thought this book had interesting things to say about privilege, and this book had interesting things to say about what you would do to keep the privilege that you have, and what happens when you not only get privilege but believe you deserve privilege. What will you do to keep that, and what do you do to the people around you who question that privilege or who threaten it? I thought this book had interesting commentary, and I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed being in this ballet world. Everything about this book to me worked in a way. Like, this book was creepy when it was supposed to be creepy. Now, here's the thing. This is why this book is only going to get 3.75 stars from me. I'm not good on monsters and beasts. Monsters and beasts and all that stuff don't always jive with me, but I enjoyed this book. The next book we have is The Cost of Knowing. In this book, we have two boys with magical powers. Our main character, Alex, when he touches something, he is able to see its future, whether it's a person, whether it's an object, he's able to see its future. Well, one day he touches something and he sees that his brother is going to die. So our main character, Alex, is like, I need to spend as much time as possible with my brother until he dies, and maybe I can do something to stop my brother from dying. Who knows? The issue with that is he hasn't talked to his brother in a long time. Yes, they live in the same house, but like, they don't talk. Their parents died a few years ago, more than a few years ago, and their best friend died, so they just had a lot of death, and they just haven't been as close as they once were. But he wants to change that because he believes that his brother is going to die, and he needs to figure out what's going to happen. This book is really good. Like, really good. Another book that has a great message. Another book that is so well written. I think the writing in this book is exceptionally done, and I was hooked the entire time. Like, hooked the entire time. I loved it. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just read it. I don't want to spoil anything, so I just want you to read it. This is a really good book, and I think you should read it. The last book, and we can go. The Lily Reads Book Club is back. The Lily Reads Book Club is back. I don't know if she's back and better than ever, but she is here. We are doing the Lily Reads Book Club at the end of every month, and we read Pardon My Frenchie by Farrah Rashawn, I never know. In this book, we are following a woman who owns a doggy daycare, and she wants to expand her doggy daycare. She wants to get a new building for her doggy daycare. Well, that's not going to happen because the building that she wants to buy, someone buys it. And it just so happens that someone who buys it is the person who owns one of the dogs at her doggy daycare. So there's a dog named Puddin that's really popular at this doggy daycare because they have like cameras that they let people like look at, and so like these dogs have become like internet famous. And it used to belong to this old woman, but this old woman got put in a nursing home, and so now it belongs to the grandson of this woman. And so he comes in and it's just like, I don't care nothing about what y'all got going on at this doggy daycare. I don't care really much about this dog. I just gotta take care of it, so knock it off. But things change when her dog and this dog Pudding, they end up liking each other, and they end up having to do some stuff together that makes our two main characters have to like hang out. And of course they end up liking each other and all of this stuff. They're both trying to start, well, one has a business, one's trying to start a business, and that's what this book is about. I think if you go into this book expecting a romance, which I mean, it looks like a romance book, then I don't think you're going to get everything you want out of this book. But if you take this book for what this book actually is, I enjoyed this book. There was mixed reviews in the chat. You know, some people liked it, some people didn't, but I really enjoyed this book. There are times when I read a book for the book club where it takes a lot for me to even finish it. Like going back to, and I'm just like, here we go again. Especially because when I'm doing something for the book club, I have to take notes. I have to like actually remember stuff and like really get into the book. So it's just like, here we go. And like every 50 pages feels like a chore. That wasn't this book. I read this book in like a day and a half. I enjoyed myself. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. So when it comes to the book club, I gave one book 2. I didn't like the last book, but I gave this one 4 stars. We are reading the book The Art of Scandal next month. Well, I guess this month when you're watching this, but I enjoyed this book. And that's my wrap up. That is my wrap up. Those are all of the books that I read in February. I will see you guys at the end of, well, at the beginning of April for my March wrap up. But yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.